Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Bull and Bear. Bull and Bear.
Bull or Bear.
Bull or Bear, Bull and Bear. We're not in a teddy bear workshop. We are in a podcast. How are you doing?
Very good. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good.
What have you got for us this week? What you got cooking up?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna come straight out the gates by messing the whole thing up with a bull and bear.
That's why you messed up the intro. Okay, interesting.
Well, basically because I think this is it's of interest. I think it is hot right now, and that is why it is a bear as well. Because the item is scammers.
Scammers are hot.
Scammers.
Patrick Lambert. Scammers are hot.
Bullish right now. And what does that mean, right? So obviously that means we have to put that in a bear category because it is bad, generally speaking, for people. But it is quite interesting. You often see any form of the scamming thing is basically they're just great innovators. And effectively, they've taken all of the tools available through AI to create more compelling deep fakes, are getting really good. Particularly, I think what was interesting about this for me, and it made me think, well, actually, this applies to us as marketers, because this is effectively what they're doing, is trying to tell that story really quickly, get trust, is they were managing to get people who, and I would put myself in this category, think of themselves as, oh, come on, I can always see this scam coming, right? Sure. I've always been, there's that nuance, that detail, the little URL's wrong. You just spot it. Yeah. With the power of AI to make this, I suppose, firstly, a bit more scale for them, so there's more testing available, but also they can color a bit more context into it. Suddenly, the I won't get scammed guys are going, including one little news article I read that someone was 6 figures deep before they realized they were not giving money to a private equity firm.
Oh my God.
I mean,
what?
Serious. So, look, it's all about really a narrative we started at the beginning of the year, which is the year, I think, of us seeing AI in marketing move from theory to actually useful. But these guys at the kind of the bleeding edge, even if they've got nefarious motives, they've never made more money out of us. And I think there are things you can learn about the way they are using these tools to create a narrative.
So, just that private equity example. I mean,
fake website, fake.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, but would they have found out that this particular person was already investing in this private equity business, or was that literally cold?
So they were targeting through the FT. So as readers of the FT. So this is the thing, right? And you just go, well, hang on. Although that is awful to hear, that's an absolutely gold-clad marketing strategy played out right in front of you, right? Find your audience, find the thing, create them a landing page style website that talks to them as an individual. They've done all of those things, and they've done them super fast with AI. Because of AI, they can spin them up so often that they can rebirth. And as a result, we've got a real challenge. So my first item is both a bull and a bear for the week. But I do think, I just think it's really interesting to have a look at how those tools can be used for that, hyper-targeted, hyper-quick marketing. Okay, my next one I think you will like, because I wonder if, in the age of ever-growing AI-generated digital marketing, this week we have taken a huge step backwards/forwards with the return of the business card.
Oh, yes.
And I think the return of the business card is all the rage this week.
When you say I like this, what do you mean? What context would I like?
Well, because we've enjoyed designing our business card. In fact, one of the first things I knew about you before we were working together was that you fucking loved the business card. You used to worry about the paper stop, the thing, and the double backed and the exact fonts, particularly the fonts. You were very concerned about the fonts.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first business cards
it was a real art form. I got for you. Inspired me with it. It lasted.
Paper, fully foiled and everything. Yeah, we have gone back to business cards, but again, talking marketing, we are playing to a very specific audience with that.
Yeah, and we're using QR codes, so there's digital connection.
Yes,
so where digital meets physical continues to be a thread, but it's all kind of weaving into this stuff of we get 15,000 AI-generated emails a day. It's like maybe the way to stand out is to be...
It's one of the trends in when we were forecasting sort of trends for marketing this year was the sort of the return of physical, mail, but also business cards.
But as you get set for your conferences and expos, all the things for the year. Get yourself some really, really mint business cards. And I think people will go, do you know what? I appreciate that. I don't want to touch my phone to yours. As clever as it is, that's lovely.
I think it's missing one thing, though.
Oh, yeah?
I think business cards can be back, but I think there's a part of the puzzle that's still missing.
Go on, then.
I think it needs to be delivered in a different way. I think if you take...
You want a dove to fly in and drop it in your place?
Something. I think if you just take a business card, I used to back in the day, so old I am, have a metal case with my business cards, sort of
baby,
like American Psycho. I think,
especially in that top this week, mate, you've got it covered.
I think there needs to be an elevation, needs to be a rebrand of the way that you give marketing cards, business cards. I don't know what that is, but by next week I will have the rebrand of how to give a business card.
Goggles.
Yeah.
Okay, because I couldn't decide whether scammers were bull or bear, I actually have two more, but let's see whether we want to do anything. The next one on the list is I'm bullish on this week. Okay. I don't quite know how it's a real challenge from the marketing narrative of any company.
Yeah.
It is the moment that an activist investor takes hold, and it was inspired by Elliott taking a stake in BP this week. Shares rally. You look at something like BP. It's felt flat, it's felt stale. Particularly, there was a whole strategic clean energy thing that the shareholders didn't seem to like, and Elliott's coming in to shake it up. But it can often take businesses up when done positively. So there's a few caveats to have here. But it can take businesses to great places, really shake them up, reinvigorate them, and as part of that, of course, sort of clarify their marketing message. When an investor comes in, where they've got a really clear strategy as to what they're going to do, there's the whole let's break it into parts and sell it piece. Let's ignore that. This is investors who want positive returns and just think the business is sound its heels. I just thought, it's an exciting thing. It's an exciting world. It's challenging. I think it must be very difficult when that person comes in and you're getting the shake up. But actually, it's very often an opportunity. And I kind of thought, I think it's fun. This week, I like it.
Well, activist investing.
Activist investing.
Well, as a shareholder of BP, a tiny one, I was quite happy to see that.
Only because they went up, right?
No, specifically, what do you think is fun about activist investing?
Okay, I think it's...
By the way, be fully transparent. And, this is only a concept I've really learned in the past couple of years about what an activist investor is, right?
Yeah.
And usually what happens is they either take over the business or they sort of get a board seat. They're usually sort of given a board seat or two and then sort of part of the board.
Well, I suppose I wanted to give it a slightly different lens because the traditional response is a negative one.
Yeah, okay.
And that's because the incumbents are often put under huge pressure by the fact that this happens. However, as I said, with a few caveats, there are guys who are just pure mercenaries who pick up a business so they can pick it apart. There are lots, however, that go in and go, no, these guys have just become complacent or they've missed the fact that this is their core business. And the argument, I think, in BP, I don't want to bring this to become a financial analyst thing, but broadly speaking, it would seem the shareholders felt BP were going in the wrong direction, and that's why an activist comes in. So what's exciting about it for me, if you're going to put the positive lens on, is it when done constructively, when the right activist, someone like Elliott, takes a position, it normally means, right, we're going to sharpen up, we're going to focus, we're going to get leaner, and we're going to do more compelling marketing and less of the sanitized Super Bowl adverts, and something a bit more guerrilla and more interesting comes out of it.
Yeah, and sometimes when the sort of takeover doesn't even go through, the sort of the board already sitting.
It's a reminder.
The existing board already actually does improve what they're doing.
Just immediately sharpens people up. So I think it's a question of, is that challenging? Yes, but it's not always negative. And so for this week, I think particularly in that, maybe it's just I like that case of it.
Yeah, okay.
But this week I'm bullish. Activist investing. Okay, we're going to have a little look at the downside this week then. There's a couple
bearish stuff.
The bear category. The first one came to me as a result of reading two articles back to back, actually. One of them was the top 10 management consultants of the year, and the other one was all about analyst reports being written by GPT's new deep research, which we've been playing with this week. And I basically bearish on the future of management consultants, or at least think they are going to need a rebrand. They're going to need to be the ninjas of AI prompting as opposed to what they have been today. Management consulting in a world of AI research looks to me like a tough sell in 5 years' time.
Okay, so Yeah, what would management consultants say to that? A lot of management consultants would say that they've got boots on the ground experience, right? Something that ChatGPT
They
can't
would
give.
use that exact phrase. It's
Yes.
beautiful.
So, what would be the argument against that?
Well, they frequently don't. I mean, that's just not true, is it? So, there, of course, one of the challenges of answering this specifically is how broad management consulting is as a field. But a huge amount of it boils down to somebody taking the time to, I suppose, almost work helicopter view on your business while you're doing the day to day. So to perform the research that then gives you a new lens. You go, Christ, okay, I would never have had the capacity to look at.
Management consultants often need to brush up on the industry that they're going into all the time, right? So you can see AI actually being a real benefit.
I'm not saying management consultancy dies as a result of this. I'm saying they're going to be really rebrand challenged, right? So the report writing stuff, you go, hang on, I could just have that done for me. In fact, a good friend of mine is just toying with the idea of releasing. He does some. He would not describe himself as that, but he kind of has acted as a management consultant to the drinks industry for the last few years, and is now thinking, do you know what? I might make AI me that I can license into these places, and they can have
digital replica,
boots on the ground experience from me. I just think anywhere where you think you can get analyst level 9,000 word analyst report written for Deutsche in 8 minutes, right? I mean, how are you going to and let's face it, most of the big management consultants are incredibly expensive. How are you going to justify that?
Okay. I mean, it's a fair point. I hadn't even thought of it, but actually, yes, they are really in the crosshairs.
So that was my first one. The second one, remember last week we spoke about the FTSE having a challenging time. They had one potential saviour in the form of Shein.
Shein.
I
think I did mention that at the time as our financial expert.
I would argue Shein is arguably one of the greatest marketing agencies on earth that's disguised as an e-com.
Okay.
Because this is effectively a social media marketing powerhouse that have managed to connect you directly to products. But I'm afraid you can't help but be bearish on them this week. Just to make the FTSE's woes worse, it looks like Donald Trump's new tariffs. Bear in mind, these guys sell direct from Chinese factories to you.
Yeah, Shein don't own any factories.
No, that's what's so clever, right? If that's why I would say they're, to me, almost a marketing agency. There's some nuance there, but they effectively are the front end to a load of other people's factories. They've got no infrastructure costs. Their cost is just getting the product sold to you. But it looks like it's going to be a pretty tough time for them to get. Look, they are still an incredible company. They're still got great values, but
it's razor thin.
But it's going to take some of the Shein off Shein. Oh, that was accidental, I promise. But it is undoubtedly right, and potentially the frothiest listing that the FTSE could have. Might just look a little less.
Yeah, very good points. When is that? When is that happening? The IPO?
Don't know.
Interesting. I thought, wasn't that supposed to happen at the end of last year?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's a very good point, actually. Businesses like that, manage to say it's so nimble, but the margins are so razor thin. So, 10% tariff, isn't it? China?
Well, yeah, and it's a bit more nuanced because it's going direct. So I don't think anyone knows where Trump's tariffs are going to fall exactly on this scenario, but they're going to.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they delayed the IPO more because lots of people are predicting that tariffs probably won't be in place in a year or two once the sort of the tail.
A lot of it may be a negotiating tactic. We've seen those sorts of things. So
no, very good point.
It could come through, but this week for sure. And then I'm just gonna butt the trend because, as I said, I wasn't sure whether we had scammers in bull or bear. So I'm going to continue with FTSE's woes, but I'm actually really bullish on them this week. And in particular, we'll actually talk about some marketing, shall we? A super complicated product, which I think, so long as you are, and if you're not, then you're not a target consumer. As long as you're reasonably tech oriented, a website that does actually explain what they do is Arm. Now, Arm obviously have come to my attention because they're going to take on NVIDIA. They just seem incredibly well run. It's also the common thread of a company that the FTSE lost and didn't manage to keep. They're listed on the NASDAQ. But because of the news about the NVIDIA chip, I went and had a little look at them and went, do you know what? This just really does look like a very well-run company, not just corporate structure, but I mean the marketing. These guys have got a clarity of message that I was surprised by. Of course, you can't help that it is speaking to tech people. It's
Yeah.
deep tech, and it's lots of things powering AI and automotive, and they've got this set, but they had that clarity of sectors, and you can kind of quickly identify what might be in it for you from their ecosystem.
Okay.
From an enterprise level. A little sort of nod to them. It's a part, again, it's a half and half. It's bad news that the FTSE lost it, but it's great news for ARM. And I do think somebody's ringing our doorbell. So yeah, ending on a bit of a bull and a bear in that it's another bear for the FTSE. But actually, I'm really bullish on ARM, and it's great to have a British company taking it to them in the AI space. And yeah, there you go. ARM.
Great.
And no, I'm not just talking my book, although I may be considering it.
Talking what?
Talking my book, although I may be considering it.
What do you mean talking about?
Well, what my investments?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think they're on the list.
Talking your book, is that a phrase? Is
Talking my book. Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, all I ever do is say good companies that I own shares in.
Very good.
So our tens of thousands of fans
also invested in Expensify that he's been moaning about.
Oh my god! Please, will somebody buy huge trays of Expensify and save me from my massive loss?
Well, thank you very much for that, sir.
We'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
See you next week.